What do you got going on? I'm pushing 3 up the hill here, and you got 1. Casey Gray here from The Conscious Builder, and welcome to episode 7 of the 3-day cottage. On the last episode, we finished framing, we got the deck done, we got into windows and doors, and now on this episode, we're gonna get into insulation, specifically Rockwool, what products we used, how we used it, and why we used it. 2 layers of this going under the slab. Yeah, to do this stuff, it has to be 2 layers to stagger your joints. So Rockwool is a sponsor for this particular project. However, first time I started using Rockwool was actually on our certified passive house almost 9 years ago at this point. And that was our first real experience with it, and we were really impressed with it, and that's why we continue to use it until this day. Because Rockwool was sponsoring and in high demand, we needed to ensure we could get the product to site on time. We didn't want to be waiting for the material to show up. Instead, we'd rather have the material waiting for us, and storing it outside under a tarp was not going to damage the product. We did have to navigate moving it around and working on the hill, which is never fun for this project, but we made it work and we had everything when we needed it.
I tried putting them on the sled and dragging them up, but in the end it was just easier for me to grab hold of the plastic and pull it up without the sled because it kept falling off. That was not a perfect solution.
Oh my Lord, you're gonna be done before I even get my thing in. It's not going anywhere. Oh.
So the first real use for us using Rockwool was on that passive house assembly, and our wall ended up being about R73.5. It was a double stud wall. From outside to inside, we had masonry, strapping, weather barrier, 2 inches of Rockwool comfort board 80, a 2x6 wall with a R22 batt, and a 1/2-inch layer of fiberboard with taped joints as our air barrier. Then that was followed by a space with an R28 batt and another 2x4 interior wall with an R14 batt finished with a smart vapor barrier and drywall. Because the wall was so thick, we needed to ensure that it could dry if moisture ever got into the wall assembly. And Rockwool is the perfect product because it does not lose its R value if it gets wet, and mold will not grow on it. Rockwool insulation is made up of volcanic rock and slag, which is a byproduct of the steel and copper industry. The raw materials are melted and spun into fibers, creating insulation that provides unique and important benefits. One of those benefits is that it's a natural fire retardant, so it's not going to contribute to the smoke in a fire, and also doesn't require any of the chemical fire retardants that other insulations need. This also means that indoor air quality is much better. So one of the things I really like about this insulation is that it's rock, so it's naturally fire retardant. So if there is a fire, it's not going to be adding to all the smoke that comes from a home fire, for example. And it also doesn't need all of the fire retardants that other insulations need in order to protect itself from burning, which means that indoor air quality is also better. It also does not allow mold or mildew to grow onto it, which means that that's adding to your indoor air quality again. If you happen to get water into your wall assembly, that insulation is not going to get wet and moldy and then contaminate your indoor air quality for your home. The higher density, non-directional fibers of Rockwool make it really good at absorbing sound, and that is why we used it for soundproofing between the bedrooms and the bathrooms on the main floor and the loft. It's also really easy to work with and can be cut with a bread knife. For our net zero cottage, we had 2 layers of Rockwool comfort board R32 in the sloped and flat ceiling for a total of R64. Our walls consisted of a continuous layer of 2 inches of comfort board 80 on the exterior for R8, and then an R22 comfort bat in between the studs for a total R value of R30.
Fill in all the holes.
Oh, okay.
You work kind of from the base, but it should fit in pretty easily. That's it.
And
You
then,
just keep going. Like this one might be a little bit less than a 16-inch center. Just
okay,
because it's right there.
just like cutting bread with a bread knife. Boop. All right. There we go. Okay, so I am going to squish it a little bit, but not much.
For the slab, we didn't do it right away because we were building this in the winter, so we wanted to make sure that the ground was thawed before we started to add insulation to it, because that ground would have taken forever to thaw at that point. Under the slab, we had 2 3-inch layers of comfort board 110, so a little bit more dense than the comfort board 80 that we used on the wall, but then you can pour your concrete right over top of that. So overall, I am a big fan of Rockwool insulation. That's why we've been using it for so long, and that's why we continue to use it. We even use it on the 160-year-old stone home that we just finished renovating to improve the performance and airtightness of that. That had 2 layers of Rockwool insulation. And the biggest reason we use it is really because of the fact that there's no fire retardants in it, and because of the fact that if it gets wet, it doesn't lose its R value. And it's a good insurance policy. You don't want to have to be worrying about what could be happening in your wall. You just have to assume that water will get into your wall at some point somehow, and what's going to happen to that wall. So if you take the proper precautions and you hire the right team, we'll make sure that you won't have to worry about any serious damage in the future for your home. Thanks for tuning in to episode 7 of the 3-Day Cottage. If you want to learn more about Rockwool, the link is in the description below. If you have any questions or comments, please post that in the video here as well. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't, because in episode 8, we're going to be getting into the air barrier and talking to 475 High Performance Building Supplies and what products we use there. So until next time, remember to live consciously.
Oh, we got that. Casey calling.